this episode, I'm going to run you guys through how we organize a job site, what we do to make it easier for us, how we set up our trim racks and our workstations, and how we keep things organized, and a little bit of tips and tricks here and there. Andrew and I are assembling our first trim rack at this house, and basically it's a series of A-frames bolted together with 2 braces in between each one. It's all 2x4 stock lumber you can buy at any lumber yard, and we designed and build these in-house. And I've seen others use these, and we took those designs and kind of made it our own. I wanted it to be durable, but also be mobile. We may be on a job where we're there for 2 to 3 months and it may need to get moved. So this makes it simple for the painter, who you just saw go out of frame, to move it quickly and shift it back over and not have any problems. So Andrew is helping me on this one, but it can be done with one person. Basically, as you can see, bolting the brace to the bottom of the A-frame and then repeating that all the way across, and then I typically will go back across the top and install all of the top braces. Oftentimes, because of the way they're constructed, I can't always put a brace right in the center, so on the top I offset it from center left and right. And here I wanted to show you how mobile it is. It actually becomes a little bit more rigid with the material on it. Right now it kind of flexes slightly, but once a few pieces of material on it, it becomes a little bit more rigid and actually easier to move. And in this particular house, we actually have 2 trim racks we're going to assemble. And here are the Fasten Master headlocks that we use. They're 2 7/8 quick lags, and we take and drive them through the braces into the A-frames. So again, Andrew and I are just taking the braces and attaching them to each A-frame and working our way across. We pretty much went through the assembly in the lower level, but I wanted to show you upstairs as well, because these are mostly used on homes that we have a subfloor on, and typically with the wheels in this application, it oftentimes is best not to overload it. So if we have 2 in one house, it's a little bit better, because then we're not overloading one and having too much weight on the wheels and the subfloor. So now we have Lalo and Jose. They're getting ready to load this thing, and we usually start pretty slow and most of the longer material and heavier weight towards the bottom. And the reason we do that is because these don't have a lot of cross bracing, so in order to keep the thing from getting too top heavy, we like to put most of the weight down towards the bottom and the floor, and that keeps it pretty stable. Once we start getting the first few in there, it becomes a lot easier to load. We just simply slide the other materials down on top of everything else. And as we load, it depends on what types of materials we have. A lot of times the projects that we're on have a lot of different moldings, so we'll separate it into different divisions, and lighter materials and moldings we typically will put on the top. And that's usually because they're lighter weight, but it also keeps them from getting damaged from the heavier materials. We don't want anything getting beat up or broken, and that's another big reason why we do this. In this particular house, we don't have a lot of different moldings, but you can see that they're starting to bring in different kinds of materials or different sizes. And the way this is set up, it allows us to separate those pretty easily and have different sections to store our material.
Action.
And the last bit of remaining material is going to be for our feature wall, so they're putting that on top. And this one, since it's on subfloor, is a little bit tough to move, but it's still pretty mobile and can be shifted out of the way. Another thing that we started doing on our bigger projects is setting up a full workstation. And this is a Polk workstation. You can purchase the plans for these online, and we built this about 2 years ago, and it's still holding up super well. And the tabletop itself actually sits on top of a couple notches on the sawhorses. Basically, all of the parts interlock, and there are a couple bolts that you can see Lalo is hand tightening together on both ends. All of the materials are 1/2-inch plywood cut to certain specs, and we put a high gloss finish on top of ours so it makes it easier to clean. And then back over to the lower level, we got everything loaded into the trim racks here. Especially on these applications, we like to keep our materials off the floor to avoid wicking any moisture into the materials from the concrete. And then once everything's loaded up, it can be easily moved out of the way. These guys are showing you how easily it moves on concrete compared to the subfloor. And this last week, we actually got working on this project. And here's what it looks like with everything stocked in. We've got our flex bolt DeWalt table saw in the cradle, battery access on the side cut in, and we can also interchange this with our corded version. Tools that we're using often are under the table, leaving the work surface mostly cleaned off. And we've got our vac system, so there's no dust collecting underneath our saw and our equipment. One last thing I wanted to show you guys is our Chop Shop saw hoods that we have on most of our saws on our job sites. It's by Fast Cap, and anything that's not collected by the vacuum is caught by the saw hood, and then we just vacuum it up at the end of the day or the end of the project. Another thing that we just started using is this Smart Electrician remote outlets, and I can control my compressor or my vacuum or whatever it is, and it actually works great for this application because a battery operated tool is unable to trigger an outlet because you can't plug into it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else more specific you'd like to see. I'll link a lot of this stuff in the description of the video. And don't forget, like, subscribe, share with your friends, get the word out.